As we discussed in the last video, every line in the xy plane has its own unique equation. And in fact, this is a miraculous thing about the xy plane or the Cartesian plane, that it allows us to link equations, that is something in algebra, with shapes, something in geometry. The simplest equations are those for horizontal and vertical lines. Let's think about a typical horizontal line. So here's a horizontal line below the x-axis. Some of the points on this line are 0, -3, 1, -3, 2, -3, so forth. Then -1, -3, -2, -3. And very, very quickly, we see there's a pattern here. The x-coordinate can be any number on the number line, but the y-coordinate has to be -3. They all have the same y-coordinate. A very elegant way to state this condition is simply by saying y equals -3. That's the equation of the line. We specify a horizontal line completely by specifying a y-coordinate. Similarly, any horizontal line will be composed entirely of points of the same height, that is, the same distance above or below the x-axis. If we simply specify that height, the place where the horizontal line crosses the y-axis, then we specify everything about it. Thus, the general form of a horizontal line is y equals k, where k is the height of the line, or k, we could say, is the y-intercept, because wherever it intercepts the y-axis, it just stays at that same y-coordinate. For example, this line here, it intersects the y-coordinate at +2, and in fact, all of its y-coordinates are +2, so the equation must be y equals 2. What is the equation of the x-axis? We don't often think about this, but the x-axis is just a horizontal line like any other horizontal line, and it's a line in the xy plane, so it must have its own unique equation, just like every other line. The x-axis is a horizontal line with a height of 0 because it passes through the origin. It passes through the y-axis at 0. It has a y-intercept of 0. Therefore, the equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. Very, very tricky that the equation of the to write the equation of the x-axis, we need to write y equals 0. Very interesting. Now let's look at vertical lines. Just as horizontal lines have all the same y-coordinates, vertical lines have all the same x-coordinates. Every coordinate on this line has an x-coordinate of 4. And so you can kind of see where this is going. Its equation must be x equals 4. That's the most elegant way to summarize what is essential about that vertical line. The equation of any vertical line that passes through the x-axis at k must be x equals k. So x equals k is the general form of a vertical line. And if we think about the y-axis, that's a vertical line that intersects at x equals 0, so that must have the equation x equals 0. To write the equation of the y-axis, we have to use an x. Again, very interesting. Any two points that share the same y-coordinate must lie along the same horizontal line. Any two points that share the same x-coordinate must lie along the same vertical line. If point C has the same x-coordinate as point A and the same y-coordinate as B, then that angle ACB has to be 90 degrees because any horizontal line is perpendicular to any vertical line. Keep in mind that a horizontal line can go through quadrants 2 and 1, or it can go through quadrants 3 and 4. A vertical line could go through quadrants 3 and 2, or it could go through quadrants 4 and 1. Most horizontal and vertical lines move through just 2 quadrants. As we'll see later on, most slanted lines move through 3 quadrants. We'll talk about that later. Also, keep in mind that while most distances in the xy plane are slightly harder to find, and we're going to have a video on that later, vertical and horizontal distances are very easy to find. All we have to do is subtract. What's the distance between 5, 1 and 5, 8? Well, they're both on the same horizontal line, and so the x-coordinate doesn't change at all. They're on the same vertical line, sorry. The x-coordinate doesn't change at all. The only thing that changes is the y-coordinate, so it's just the vertical distance of 8 minus 1, which is 7. What's the distance between negative 3, 2 and negative 9, 2? Those are on the same horizontal line. They have the same y-coordinate. And so we just have a horizontal distance from negative 3 to positive 9. And when we go from negative 3 to positive 9, 9 minus negative 3 is 9 plus 3, which is 12. Here's a practice problem. Pause the video and then we'll talk about this. Line P shown in the diagram is a horizontal line in the xy plane. Line Q not shown is perpendicular to line P and passes through the point 5, 7. What is the equation of line Q? So line Q is on this line here, and we know that every vertical line has the same x-coordinate. So we know it's a vertical line. All vertical lines have the same x-coordinate, so it is of the form x equals k. Well, what's the x-coordinate? Well, if it goes through 5, 7, it must have an x-coordinate of 5. X equals 5. So this is actually a relatively straightforward problem. This is actually a little bit easier than something that the test would ask, because that just focused on horizontal and vertical lines and nothing else. Here's another practice problem that's slightly more test-like. It combines the information about horizontal and vertical lines with some ideas from other sections. Pause the video and then we'll talk about this. In the coordinate plane, the line x equals 2 and the point 7, 3 are shown. What is the equation of a horizontal line above the point 7, 3 that is as far from the point 7, 3 as is the line x equals 2? So first of all, we have to figure out the distance between this point and this line. Well, typically the way we do that is figure out the direct perpendicular distance. This has an x-coordinate of 2, this has an x-coordinate of 7, so this distance here is 5. And so what would happen if we had a line, a horizontal line above this point that was also a distance of 5? Well, this is at a y-coordinate of 3, and so it would go up to a y-coordinate of 8. It would go up to the point 7, 8. That would be the closest point. And so the y-coordinate would be 8 of that horizontal line. A horizontal line is always of the form y equals k. The k has to be 8. And so it has to be y equals 8. Answer choice C. Horizontal lines have the general form y equals k. Vertical lines have the general form x equals k. The x-axis is y equals 0. The y-axis is x equals 0. Very important to keep in mind that interesting swap. If 2 points share the same x-coordinate, they are vertically separated. If 2 points share the same y-coordinate, they are horizontally separated.